A bit of background. I, 45 female, am a single mom of two kids, Ella, 18 female, and Jake, teen male. My husband died when the kids were young, and I've worked extremely hard to support them both emotionally and financially. My husband left behind a life insurance policy, and I've saved part of that money for their college education. Since she was a little girl, Ella's always dreamed of going to a prestigious college. We've had many talks about how important education is, and I made sure she knew that the fund I was building for her and Jake was specifically for their education. I couldn't afford luxuries like vacations or new cars, but I wanted to ensure they wouldn't be burdened by student loans. Recently, though, things have become strained with Ella. She started dating a guy, Matt, 19 male, a few months ago, and I feel like her personality has completely changed. She's become distant, rude, and dismissive of anything I say. She said hurtful things like I smother her or treat her like a child. I've tried giving her space, but last week, during a particularly bad argument, she said she was going to go no contact with me once she went to college and would never look back. I was devastated. After everything I sacrificed, to hear that she'd cut me out was heartbreaking. I didn't want to react out of emotion, so I waited a few days to cool off. But eventually, I decided that if she truly wanted nothing to do with me, then I wasn't going to fund her education. I told her if she was planning to go no contact with me after college, she should consider her fund off the table, and I'd split it between Jake and myself for other things. She exploded, calling me vindictive, manipulative, and selfish. She thinks I'm trying to control her by dangling the money over her head. I've talked to a few friends about this, and reactions have been mixed. Some say I'm within my rights because the money is mine, and I can do with it what I see fit. Others say I am punishing her for her feelings, and that I'm being controlling by using the money as leverage. So, am I the idiot for taking back my daughter's college fund after she said she was going no contact with me? She's going no contact after college, so you're supposed to put up with her disrespectful behavior for at least 4 years? No. If she wants to be free of that, it means free of your money and support. Not the idiot. People who are no longer family members do not get benefits, such as money from the family. Her choice. Shrug. Actions have consequences, and if she chooses to remove herself from the family in turn is not obligated to keep throwing money at her. She's biting the hand that feeds her. I don't think she thought this all the way through. You guys are ignoring the fact that it sounds like she's in an abusive relationship. She suddenly changed and wants to cut off the family. You don't just decide those things on a whim. I had a friend who went through something similar, and her now ex, thankfully, boyfriend didn't start the physical abuse until after he had convinced her that her family was out to get her. She only got out because he didn't cut off all of her friends before the physical abuse, so she felt like she still had an out, even though she was too ashamed to go back to her parents at first. Exactly, especially if there's a chance the boyfriend has something to do with this. Does the daughter expect the OP to just hand her a lump sum of tens of thousands of dollars on the good faith that she's actually going to spend it on college instead of letting her boyfriend steal it? The bottom line is that you're not the idiot for not giving her the money now if she says she's going no contact. However, it sounds like that is her money on some level from her father. You have the right to continue being a custodian of that money instead of handing it off to an 18-year-old and praying she doesn't spend it irresponsibly. But immediately spending it on yourself is kind of an idiot move in my opinion. Keep it aside for her and let her figure her crap out. Then be the parent she can come back to for support. That's my 2 cents at least. I, 22 female, have a friend named Amy, 22 female, who I met in college. Currently, we are in our last semester of college. I live alone, but she shares her apartment with 2 other people. We never spoke about our finances much, but both of our parents currently pay our rent. The issue started when we talked about our future plans. I told her that I'm probably going to get a job and do my master's at the same time so that I can save up a little, but also finally have my own money to spend on some things that I love and travel. She laughed at me and asked me what kind of salary I expected while working part-time to be able to afford all that. I shrugged and said I didn't have any expenses that I needed to cover really, just food, and that's it. She looked shocked and asked me about rent and stuff, and I said my parents would be paying for it. She then went on a rant about becoming an adult, how she can't wait to be independent, how she doesn't want to take money from her parents, and stuff like that. For the most part, I tried to nod my head and listen to her, but then she said something like, "I'd feel like a bad daughter if I were you." And that really made me feel embarrassed. My parents want to pay for my apartment. They can easily afford it, and I'm not the type of person to be ungrateful for it. I spend a lot of time with them. I know they don't lack for money or anything. They travel, own their home, and have a good retirement plan. They don't mind paying for me, and I don't mind taking it. We have a good relationship. I know this won't be forever, and I don't expect it to be. Just a few years until I finish my degree and get a higher paying job. I got annoyed and told her to drop it. We could talk about something else. But she continued talking about how her parents want her to be a real adult, how I'll never be ambitious unless I struggle, and just more and more nonsense. Not sure how important it is, but between the two of us, my grades are significantly better, and I'm a few exams ahead of her in terms of passing this semester. I just cut her off and said, "Well, I don't know. Maybe my parents love me more than yours love you, so they want to pay. I'm sorry for that. Can we now talk about something else?" We didn't talk since, and I do feel bad because I know that love has nothing to do with money. And looking back, it's such a rude thing to say, but I just said it to shut her up because she was insulting me and calling me spoiled for no reason. I wasn't even the one to start this conversation, nor did I probe into her finances. She was the one who kept it going. Ever since that day, I feel a pit in my stomach, and I really didn't want to insult her. Everyone's the idiot here. You are definitely an idiot for saying such a thing. Money does not equal love, ever. That said, she was an idiot for not dropping the subject earlier and trying to make you feel like you were taking advantage of your parents. Both of you have loving parents. They may not have the same amount of money, but besides that, they can have different ideas about the best ways to support your careers and lives. In this case, since you do have better grades, you are perhaps a better candidate for a master's program, which in the long run will make continuing to support you a good investment. Disagree. Not the idiot. She started throwing stones with, "I'd feel like a bad daughter if I were you." And then you said, she continued talking about how her parents wanted her to be a real adult, how I'll never be ambitious unless I struggle. Sounds like you gave her a slice of humble pie. People are so stuck on what OP said. It's ridiculous. I'm glad I found the section on people using their brains. She started it. OP ended it. I agree. Yes, what she said was idiot-ish, but it was sarcastic ammunition to put an end to her friend's onslaught. We've all said hurtful things that we didn't mean in the heat of the moment, especially when the other person was being obnoxious. Not the idiot, OP. It would be beneficial to your living situation to apologize and then put some distance between yourself and this friend. Express that you regret what you said and leave it at that. I, 29 male, recently bought my first house. I'm settling in and I like the neighborhood, and a few neighbors even came by to say hello. They included a woman, 43, and her young teen son. Not long after, I was on my couch one afternoon and saw the son outside, mowing my front lawn. I'm confused since I never asked him to, and he never even offered. I went out and politely asked him why he was doing it. He said he did it for lots of neighbors and quickly added that they give him $5 for it. I found it weird, so I thanked him for the partial work he had done before explaining that I hadn't asked or wanted him to do it. I wasn't going to be paying him. He said okay and quietly left my lawn. I figured that might be the end of it. Just a kid trying to make some money, resolved with no harm done, end of story. But the next day his mom arrived on my doorstep and angrily asked me why I hadn't paid her son. I basically repeated what I'd said to her son, but she wouldn't accept it. She just kept saying that it was a kind gesture and that he did it for all the other neighbors. She also said that $5 isn't a lot of money and I could have just given it to him. I kept trying to explain that an agreement like that needs to be set up ahead of time. Otherwise, it's nothing more than a random demand for money. But she tuned me out and ended up walking away as I talked. I was amazed the adult in the situation was handling it worse than a literal child was. I'm wondering how much longer this will go on for. That was last week. Every time I've seen her since, she stared daggers at me or made a show of crossing the street to avoid me. I'm not instigating anything further. I really have no desire to speak to her, but I think she might be trying to send her poor kid back to collect this money or even mow the lawn again. I vented about this to family and friends, and while most seemed to agree with me, some said I should have been grateful and paid the boy the money and just told him from then on not to mow the lawn. I can't tell if I've been an idiot here, or if my reaction to the whole thing was entirely justified. Not the idiot. If he wants to make money, he needs to ask first and make sure that you're willing to hire him. Just diving in and sticking his hand out afterward is a polite shakedown. And of course, this doesn't consider the potential damage to your yard because he has no idea what you have going on without talking to you first. His mom is delusional. If that kid is mowing your lawn and runs over his own foot, what kind of liability would you face? What if his mower kicks up a rock through your front window? Is mom going to buy you a new one? Seriously, don't get these people who are pro-extortion and trespassing. Being a doormat for your neighbors invites further bad behavior. Being a good neighbor and letting people take advantage of you is ridiculous. It's a kind gesture? Oh, so a thank you should be enough payment, right? I would be so tempted to go and do something to her house or garden and then send her an invoice for your work. Haha, don't do it, man. You stopped him once you noticed what was happening. You didn't wait for him to finish and then question him. You weren't trying to get free work. What do the neighbors say and think? Maybe try to talk with them and get their input. They've been there longer. They all may be fed up with that family also. I, 29 male, often let my partner, 27 non-binary, sleep in. I tiptoe around, staying quiet so they can rest. They sleep until 2 p.m. if allowed, but I usually wake them by 11 a.m. since we have things to do. Recently, I've taken on more work, going from running my own business with a few weekly Zoom calls to adding a new job where I worked 59 hours over 10 days. It's exhausting, and I'm currently battling what I think is the flu. My partner knows I'm not well. I'm also a full-time online student, working on assignments in my spare time. My partner hasn't worked for about 10 months. I've noticed a pattern of my partner being noisy when I'm trying to sleep, and they get defensive when I mention it. For example, I had a midnight to pre-tween AM shift, so I told them I needed rest. I took melatonin, set an alarm, and napped. Less than an hour later, I woke up to them eating popcorn loudly in bed, the sound and smell waking me. Another time, while trying to get rest before a shift, they were using a bug zapper on the bed, making it shake. These incidents, among others, have been frustrating. That brings me to this morning. I recently worked a double shift and came down with a bad cough. I didn't sleep well yesterday since we had to go to the pharmacy for cough suppressants. Last night, my partner snapped at me and then stormed out. They messaged me saying they were overtired and needed sleep, but I could stay up. I went outside to cool down my fever, then returned quietly. We have a litter of rescue puppies, and yesterday we introduced them to puppy mush, which involves grinding kibble to prevent choking. This morning I wake up at 7:30 a.m. to the loud sound of the grinder. I went to see what was happening, and my partner was making the mush. I was annoyed because we usually don't feed the dogs before 9 a.m. I stepped outside and then came back in. I hadn't planned to say anything, but my partner apologized, saying, "Sorry for waking you up with the grinder." I replied, "I just don't understand why it had to be done at 7:30 a.m. They said, "Because the puppies needed food." This frustrated me because I handle most of the dog responsibilities, and they rarely help. I mentioned that feeding the puppies didn't have to happen so early, and they explained that the mama dog had spilled kibble, and they worried about the puppies choking. I suggested cleaning up the spill instead, and mentioned that it felt like they were intentionally waking me up. They rolled their eyes and said, "Whatever," and I walked away, heading back to the bedroom to type this out. I feel like I'm making an effort to give them space to rest, but I don't get the same in return. Even setting work and school aside, I'm sick, which they know means I need extra sleep to recover. Am I the idiot? Your partner ate popcorn in bed, used the bug zapper in bed, and ran the puppy food grinder at 7:30 when you usually feed the dogs at 9 a.m. Wow. And you're financially and emotionally supporting them? What are they bringing to the relationship? Because they're going pretty far out of the way to prevent you from sleeping. Not the idiot. Your partner sounds very inconsiderate. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I say take the trash out, and this is why. People so often in relationships accept rude and disrespectful behavior. Even the small microaggressions of being loud when you're trying to sleep directly reflect how considerate a person is. Now, obviously, I don't know your partner or relationship, but I've seen several times where someone continues a relationship and the rude behavior not only continues, but gets worse. I think it begins to wear on the other partner and often doesn't improve and leaves the other partner tolerating something they shouldn't. I, female 32, just got home from dinner with my best friend. She came over to my house around 5:45 p.m. I shared with my partner, male 37, and we each had 2 glasses of white wine before heading out to a local restaurant for dinner. We headed to dinner around 6:30 p.m. We shared a bottle of white wine, some tacos, arancini balls, and a platter of bread with a trio of dips. I got home around 8:15 p.m. When I got home, my partner stated that the wine glass my friend grabbed from the cupboard was red, not white, and he was particular about this. Note, I've just started the process of moving in with him, and we've already had a few tiffs that make me feel like this is his home and I'm just living in it. I said I didn't see what the big deal was. They're just wine glasses. And given it's the first time she's been here, if she grabbed coffee mugs and poured the wine in the coffee mugs, what did it matter? Another note, I got a call from my property manager at the apartment where I'm going to end my lease. They said there was water all over the floor. The floorboards were lifting, and my boxes of stuff were damaged because of the water. I had just been back there for the first time in 3 days to assess the damage, and I was stressed, which is why she brought wine and made herself at home by immediately pouring us a glass of wine when we got in. Anyway, after being told off about using the wrong wine glasses, to which I said I had brought my own wine glasses and wouldn't use his anymore anyway, he asked me what was wrong and that I looked like I was about to cry. I was obviously annoyed because I felt like he was just being irrational, but I definitely wasn't emotional, and I told him I wasn't. So he said, "Oh, so your eyes are just that glazed over then?" This really annoyed me because last weekend he went out with his mates for 6 hours and came back absolutely hammered and proceeded to be rude and belittling to me then. So I found it really offensive that he was making comments about my eyes being glazed over. Anyway, I took myself to bed because I thought he was being absolutely ridiculous, and he told me I was being an idiot. So tell me, am I the idiot? Wrong wine glasses? Who cares? Do not get stuck there. He knows that's ridiculous. You don't need to argue to prove that point. He just picked a small issue, making it big, just to make you feel small. Maybe he wants you to never have friends over, so he makes it uncomfortable in this sneaky way. Don't let him punish you for having friends, and do not ask if you're the idiot if you don't meet up to his petty demands. You were not overreacting. He was the one overreacting. To even say something about the glasses is so petty. Do not move in with this guy. The snippy comments and the silly little tiffs will escalate. He'll get madder and madder about you going out with your friends and over silly things that mean nothing. He will hold over the fact that it's his house all the time. He'll push all your friends and family away so he can do whatever he wants, and you stay at home being a good little housewife with no life and no friends. You deserve a partner who supports your friendships, not diminishes them. Protect your happiness.